Hello, welcome back. We are getting close to the end here, starting in on Act 4 of our solo Brutal V Rising run. But don't worry, there's still plenty left, plenty of cool stuff for us to do. If you missed the other videos in the series, first of all, it's a little weird to start here. Second of all, this is a solo Brutal run where I've set the V-Blood multiplier to plus 25 and the V-Blood level to plus 1. Most other settings are at the defaults, but I have turned up loot and crafting speeds a little bit just so it isn't too grindy. We just defeated Cyril at the end of the last video. Cyril the Cursed Smith? Cursed Forge Master? I can't remember his full name. And that process nearly killed me. The fight was so hard for me. It's weird. It makes sense because he is like the last guy of Act 3. But it doesn't feel predictable when I run into a boss that just like absolutely destroys me. Because it's not always the last one of an act. Like Krieg got me pretty good. But we finally got through it. And now we have a reason to go to a new area on the map, Silverlight Hills. This is where the fancy rich humans live. There's an actual city in Silverlight and a lot more patrols. So that's a lot of what we're going to be doing in this video. By the way, I'm Savalian. I make videos about games, development, and creativity, and I also stream games on Twitch. If you're watching this around the time it was published, there's also the chance that I'm actively doing a V Rising Brutal run with other people. We're planning to do one soon, around mid-September, but we haven't fully finalized the date and like invited everyone and things like that. So, probably not exactly when this video goes live, but soon after. And I'm very excited. But back to this run, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So immediately after defeating Cyril, for some reason I went into Gloomrot next. I didn't take very good notes when I was doing this run just because I did not think it would take me, over a month to actually edit the footage. But I think I was probably either farming tech scrap or it's possible I was looking for plague briar seeds. Because it took me a long time to find even one seed. I just got really unlucky. But after farming stuff in Gloomrot, I went out to Silverlight Hills for the first time. And you might guess from the name what we're looking for here. We are looking for silver. We are going to need a lot of silver for our next gear set, some other things we can craft. A lot of the endgame stuff uses dark silver, which we make out of silver, predictably. And remember, we're vampires. Silver will hurt if it exceeds our resistance. Our gear gives a little bit of resistance, the cloak, and I think the bag, though the bag might only be for coins. But we have a little bit of silver resistance, but in order to carry a substantial amount of raw silver, you will need to craft one of the silver resist potions that we unlocked, or it will just drain your health until you die. And if you pick up a big stack of silver, for example, from your servants after they get back from a servant hunt at the silver mines, it will just like immediately kill you. So that's fun. I wasn't really ready to dive into the silver mines yet, so I ran around the wilderness a bit. As I mentioned, there are a lot of little military patrols in Silverlight, and I wanted to see if I could get some equipment together before tackling the mines themselves, just because I was a little scared. The only way out of the silver mines is to go through the door, which is guarded by the boss, the next boss that we're going to fight. There might be a way to sort of cheese it or just like run past the boss and open the door anyway. But one thing I know for sure is that frog form does not let you jump out of the silver mines. That's the only thing I know for sure. And so I was worried. I didn't want to go in there and get stuck, get all my loot stuck in there. So for now, we're just looking for the sort of free range silver that just spawns on the map in Silverlight. I explored the countryside, looted a few of the smaller human camps, and then went home to smelt my bounty. In order to actually make the dark silver, you do need spectral dust, which I have made some in advance. I was prepared for this. Spectral dust, if I remember off the top of my head, is ghost crystal and scourge stones. So this is what I mentioned early in the game about how they bring a lot of this stuff back So like we haven't needed scourge stones for a while, but now they have become useful again. And there's a lot of ways that they do that to make these materials useful throughout the game. I did a bit more crafting before I headed out, you know, just the vampire chores. More scourge stones, some glass for potions and sludge canisters themselves, and then with a bit of the dark silver made up, I started on my next tier of weapons. Slashers were first as my favorite, though in this run they haven't been as useful as in the multiplayer run, which I think I've talked a lot about why that is. And I do really like the dark silver weapons because they have these little pink accents on them. Unfortunately, if you use them to upgrade the ancestral weapons, which I did for all the ones that I had, they don't have the cute look to them, they just look like the normal ancestral weapon. So that's kind of a bummer. Still waiting for weapon transmogs. Spit Stunlock. Forgot the name of the company for a second, sorry. Then I made some pistols, another weapon that I think I would like a lot if I spent some time with them, and I saw these recommended for the next boss, so I'm gonna bring them with me. And then I also made a new hammer just for harvesting the silver a little bit faster. With all of these chores done, I went into Silverlight to check out the mine, and you actually can't get in through the front entrance, as I said. You have to walk back around the side, and we sneak in through the back door, which you'll see involves a jump down into the mine. So we will need to defeat the boss to get out again, or, you know, as I said, it might be possible just to run past him. Maybe I'll go in and try it one of these days, but I have not tried it so far. The silver mine is very similar to the iron mine, but there's something fun in here to pay attention to. You'll see you have the miners, who I believe are slaves, and then you have the people in charge, the slave drivers, whatever they're called. And if you only kill the people in charge, the miners will not attack you, and in fact they will help you later on in the mine. So that's it's good to be kind to these poor souls who have been forced to mine this silver, because it's gonna help you out later. And also it's just good to be nice when you can. As vampires, we don't get a lot of chances to be truly kind, so this is one of those chances. You'll also want to keep an eye on your stacks of silver debuff, because even with the silver resist, you will not be able to fully mine out the silver mine. There's simply too much of it. Your stacks only go up to a certain amount. You can check in your like attribute panel or something how many stacks you can support on the silver resist potion that you have. But be careful, because if you exceed it, you'll start taking damage. So I kept mining until I was at capacity, trying to only kill the slave drivers, and then everything will sort of lead you down toward the boss. Before heading down, I freed all the prisoners, and then they rushed down to attack the next boss, Sir Magnus the Overseer. This guy is an ice wielder, and he's kind of crazy. It's like he's just discovered ice powers and he's just using them every chance he gets. That's how it feels. He does some very big, widespread AoE ice attacks. I used my new pistols on this guy to try them out, and the pistols come with a dodge. I think I mentioned that already. It just takes some time to get used to the dodge and like to remember that it happens when you use it. Some of Magnus's attacks are a radial ice attack that sort of spins outward from his position, a little spike of 3 ice spears that actually can go pretty far if it doesn't hit anything. He will do a charge that I think you can block with the shield. And I believe if you get hit by the charge, he does skewer you. So be careful, because he'll sort of grab you and throw you around a little bit. And on top of the damage, it also just, it's a little disorienting and it messes up your movement and stuff like that. He will also do this annoying thing where he surrounds himself with layers of ice blocks, and I think this is why I've seen people using the pistols, because the little combo moves with the pistol I think make it easier to break through some of these ice blocks so you can get at him again. And of course, just like with Vincent, previous ice guy, if you get hit by the ice too many times, it will freeze you, and obviously you want to avoid that. It is hard to avoid the charge when he does his ice block move because he's kind of hidden in there. So just be careful. Try to pay attention when he changes strategies a little bit. And also, while this area does appear to be outdoors, I've seen a good amount of shade that passes over, so I wouldn't be too worried if you're stuck out here in the daytime. I was able to fight him just fine, just keeping an eye on the clouds. And also at one point on my first attempt, I just completely lost track of him because of the visibility was blocked by the ice blocks, and I ducked behind a building. And somehow he got completely to the other side of the arena and reset his health. So that was my bad. I did not realize he moved because I was out of line of sight. So I was chipping away at the ice and then he wasn't there. And the funny thing is, after that happened, I almost got him down without even healing, but I got hit by one too many ice projectiles and he killed me. I made my way back through the mine, and here is my second attempt at Magnus the Overseer. A lot better. This guy's not too hard, thankfully. So we got him down. Definitely easier than Cyril. I do think they intentionally make the sort of gatekeepers between acts very difficult, and then I think they ease up a little bit so that you don't get too discouraged. Also, they probably don't want to make this guy in particular too hard, just so all your loot doesn't get trapped in here if you die. Because he is literally a gatekeeper in that he keeps this gate to get out of the silver mine. Once he's down, or potentially if you're able to get around him, you can use the little lever to open the gate, and it does close again. This does not open the gate forever, so every time you come in here, you will need to open this lever again to get out. Magnus unlocks a new cloak, so I went home and made that, and also got my silver into the smelter. You definitely want to make sure you get the silver out of your pockets before the resistance potion wears off. And as I said earlier, be very careful when picking things up from chests or when unloading your servants after a servant hunt. If they have a bunch of silver on them, you may accidentally just like kill yourself if you grab all the silver at once. So be careful about that. And the next boss is another Silverlight boss, and I call this guy the Wine Baron. Baron du Bouchon the Sommelier. I don't know if I've said that right, and frankly I don't care. This guy is deceptive in the fight's difficulty. When you see him and his moves, you're gonna think it's easier than it is. He's just a silly little guy who likes to jump around and throw things. But he's like really hard actually. Or maybe I'm just bad. It could be either one. This guy, being the Wine Baron, lives at the vineyard. And while we're at the vineyard, we want to make sure we get as many of these sacred grapes as we can. We need these for a lot of crafting recipes. You can use these for blood merlot, which reduces the misery of your prisoners. And also, we need at least a couple blood merlot to make the next level of necklaces for us and our servants. It also, I believe, is used for some of the potions, the higher level potions. So we're going to want these. Just like everything else, the grapes have a small chance of dropping seeds. They have been extremely rare for me. I don't know if these are more rare than all the other kinds of seeds, but I was not really able to get one. Luckily, you can also pay for them at the merchants in the big city with the gold sun coins or whatever they're called. It's kind of a dangerous trek. We're not going to go into the city until a little bit later, but that's where you can get some seeds as well. This vineyard is also routinely attacked by harpies, so be prepared for a surprise attack. They will sort of just fly down from the sky. You can't really see them before they show up. So be prepared, as they say in The Lion King. And also there's these big buckets that have a lot of grapes in them, so you can just farm them out of there if you just need some grapes. But I don't think you can get seeds from those buckets. Okay, on to the boss fight. The Wine Baron, Baron du Bouchon, I can't even remember his name, is in a little basement full of chemistry equipment. Actually, it is kind of a big basement. I won't call it a little basement. He's just a fancy little lad sitting at his desk making wine. And the biggest challenge of this fight is the barrels. He will just constantly call barrels down to roll across the floor. And if you get hit by one, even just like a tiny bit, it will flatten you and mess up your movement. Also hurts pretty bad. These gave me so much trouble. You can veil through the barrels, but you will not have enough veils off cooldown to do it every time. There are also openings between the barrels that you can and should try to step between. And then if nothing else, you can attack the barrels to kill them, but they have more than like one auto attack of health. So you'll need to either attack them a few times or use a move or something. My first attempt I died almost immediately to the stupid barrels, which is the same thing that happened in my my community runs before this. God, I'm so bad at this fight. And I never expect to be, because it doesn't seem that hard. Among his other moves, the Baron also does a little swirly sword thing that I think acts as a shield, so don't hit him when he's doing that. He will also shoot something at you. I think he's throwing his wine glass. You can dodge that or probably catch it with the shield if you're paying attention better than I was. And then he also does like a circular AoE around his body that is telegraphed pretty good in advance, so you should be able to get out of that. It's really just the barrels, these dang barrels, and every time I died to them I would get more angry. I felt like I would spend all of my meager attention trying to dodge these barrels, and then he would like throw one wine glass at me and kill me. I went home and made the fancier crossbow to see if that helped. I also added an electric move during one of my attempts to try and do a little bit of AoE damage to these barrels. The idea here with the AoEs was that I don't need to aim perfectly, so I could focus on moving with the crossbow AoE and some of the AoE moves. I also feel like the hitbox on these barrels is really unforgiving. There were times where I felt like I was clear, but I must have been like right at the edge of the barrel because it still got me. Retrieving the health orbs that they spit out at 50% was nearly impossible with all the barrels, so I couldn't really rely on those either. After a few more attempts, I tried the slashers again, which you can use the dash move to get through the barrels if you time it right. Of course, it does return you to your starting position, so you gotta time it so that you're not just leaping back onto the barrel at the end of the move. I don't know how many times I fought the Wine Baron, but the run back also kind of sucked because of the harpies, because of the patrols, just because there's a lot going on in this area. I had to go home and get more blood at one point because I ran out. And to this day, I have no idea why this fight is so hard for me. Other people do not seem to have as much trouble. I can see the gap in the barrels and move towards it, but I think like my movement just must not be as precise as it needs to be. It could be because I use a trackball mouse, so we can blame it on that if we want. But eventually I got him. It's really just a matter of staying alive long enough to whittle him down, as with many of the other fights in this game. I looted the vineyard one more time, and I also stole a horse on my way out. Horses in this game are pretty fun, but you don't get the dominate mount option until much later in the main quest, so all the horses up to that point are merely mortal, and you can't summon them to your location, so for me it's not really as worth it. The Wine Baron unlocks a lot of useful things, the Blood Merlot I mentioned, the amulet that you can craft with it, as well as a silly barrel disguise that I don't think I've ever actually used, and some fences. I made the new amulet for myself and also some of my servants. It's good to keep them as geared up as possible so that they can get loot for you on their hunts that is like, you know, competitive, it's useful. It's at the level that you need it to be. Next, I had a need for some more glass, so I raided the quartz quarry. Just another kind of vampire chore, a vampire errand, if you will. And after another little batch of vampire chores, I went out to fight the next boss. This is another one I remember pretty well from normal mode. Can be very challenging, so I'm interested to see how I do. It's Morian the Stormwing Matriarch, a harpy. She lives on a little cliff surrounded by smaller harpies, and they like to hide and ambush, and they'll fly in from higher up. So be careful in this little area. Make sure you've got your health up and that you're paying attention, so they can't ambush you too bad. And she is also out in the open, so you'll need to fight her at nighttime or be burned by the sun. Morian is a chaos-themed boss and a little bit erratic because of that. She shoots out these chaos orbs in a really haphazard sort of cone pattern, and she also summons quite a few adds. She will sometimes launch into the air and disappear for a while a bunch of adds show up. And during this time, she will shoot across the arena and try to hit you, so watch out for that. I think that can do a pretty good amount of damage. The adds were the first big challenge on this fight for me. I had a hard time burning them down fast enough so that they didn't get overwhelming. And then the other challenge was this move that she does later in the fight. It's kind of like her ultimate move. And this is also what Octavian does. I mentioned he does a couple things that later bosses do. It's this spinning around and summoning all these little weapons. And all of these hurt pretty bad, and there's so many of them. And they don't really seem to follow a pattern that I can recognize, so it's very hard for me to avoid these. In hindsight, it's probably worth using a shield to soak some of these up. I don't think I considered that during the fight when I was doing this, but looking back on the VOD, I think that probably would be a decent strategy to just soak up some of the projectiles here with a shield, and then there just won't be as many to dodge. I tried the crossbow for this one as well, again hoping that the AoE move and the range would save me. It did seem to help a bit with the ads, able to just burn them down a little tiny bit faster. And with Morian I did several attempts and I could pretty easily get her down to 50%, but that big spinning AoE was really tough for me. On my successful attempt, one of the things that I think helped, or maybe it was completely luck, but it might have helped, was using the Spectral Wolf. I think adding the weaken debuff to enemies just helps survivability a little bit, and since survivability was the biggest problem for me, just taking too much damage and dying on the ultimate attack, I think it helped a lot. And then I also think I just got lucky with the big move, and a lot of the little projectiles just happened to miss me. So this is another one that felt a little too chaotic for me to say I've figured out the strategy, but in the end, I got her down. I did get a little greedy during the last little bit of her health. I could have easily died here at the end, but I got her down just in time with a little tiny sliver of my own health left. Morian does not unlock much, but she does unlock large gems, which you'll need if you want to get the really nice jewels for your moves in the late game. And jewels can be really powerful, so you do want these. And we are also doing all the bosses, so we aren't skipping them even if we don't really need their unlocks. The next boss is actually right across the street, so I headed straight there. If we just go back out to the road and then across, we'll find another little cliff. And here is Mairwyn the Elementalist. Morian and Mairwyn, two good neighbors. I think Mairwyn is a really cool fight. I actually fought her mostly solo during my community server runs because someone had needed to catch up and they weren't able to survive the fight very well, so I was helping out and ended up kind of doing it mostly solo. She shoots out a lot of fire, as you might guess from her name, among other elements, and it's actually a really good idea to bring a fire resist potion to this fight. If you remember, I don't think I remembered, I don't see it on there, but some of her moves include a big fiery cross that moves around slowly and just continuously shoots out fireballs. She also does some kind of powerful ice bullets and a little lightning AoE that I think teleports her as well. So she skips around between all these different elements, and she does not have a lot of health. She is sort of a traditional mage. She's not very strong in defense, but she has a lot of offensive magic. At some point in the fight, later in the fight, I want to say it's like 30% of her health, she will split into multiple versions of herself. And I think the number of clones that she has might depend on how many people are fighting her, because in my playthrough solo I saw 2, but I'm pretty sure I've seen her split into 3 before, and potentially even more. But unless I'm remembering a different particular Gloomrot boss, I think Mairwyn can change in the number of clones that she has, so watch out for that. And all of her copies have independent health, so you can kill one and then the other to focus them down. You can AoE them both at the same time if you'd prefer to do that, but then you will have two Mairwyns doing, you know, fire on you. So however you want to handle that, just know that they are not linked together like again, a certain Gloomrot boss that we'll see later has like linked health points between the clones. Just keep dodging fire and ice bullets and potentially using your ultimate after the split, and you've got her down. This was a surprise first try boss. I'm attributing this to my practice in the previous run. I just knew the fight a little bit better, and also, you know, if you're able to dodge the offensive moves well enough, she does not have a lot of health to defend herself with, so she's not too hard. She unlocks the nicer Holy Resist potion, which we will need to fight an upcoming boss, and she also gives us the ability to craft the better jewels. So now we have both the bigger gems and the jewels that we can make with them. So we're all set to start optimizing our jewel game as we go into some of these later bosses. On my way home, I did a little bit of fishing, and I don't think I mentioned this, but there are different fish in the different zones. There's like a set of common fish that you can catch anywhere, and then the different zones have like their unique fish. I was hoping to catch some nice silverlight fish. I don't remember if I did, but I just did some fishing for fun. I also made another set of Dawnthorn armor for my servants, get them outfitted in the finest clothes for my good friends. And another note, now that we have explored the silver mine, we can send the servants out there to bring silver back, so we won't really need to go trudging through there ourselves again, unless we want to. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up this video here because the next set of bosses is in another area of the map. So we've done everything that Silverlight has to offer right now. We'll be coming back here later, but in the next video, we're going to be venturing into Gloomrot North, so the harder section of Gloomrot for the next couple of bosses. So please like this video and subscribe, especially if you've watched all the way to the end. There's probably something you like here, just a little guess. But I hope you are enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying this journey. I had so much fun. I love V-Rising. Gosh, it got me so bad. It got me so bad, and it also got me by surprise. I was not expecting to be this into the game, but I did. But we are getting very close to the end of this run, so things are going to start picking up and getting real exciting. But I'll be back soon with another video, and I hope to see you there. Bye bye!